Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and unpack the most intriguing knowledge and insights. Today, we're diving into an audio source titled Knowledge of the Forever Time Part 4, The Secret Stargate of Triangulum.
And this one presents a truly, unconventional perspective on ancient history, human origins, and our place in the cosmos.
Yeah.
It lays out a narrative that really challenges almost everything conventional history teaches us.
Absolutely. It's definitely out there. Our mission today is to guide you through these claims, pulling out the key ideas presented in the source material, no matter how, unusual they might seem. Let's unpack this. So the source kicks off with a really radical claim about our very foundation, DNA. It posits that our DNA is 99.9% the same because we all descend from the same original father, the first man supposedly planted on Earth.
Right.
And get this, it suggests that changing just one single letter in our DNA could be the key to immortality. Think about that for a second. One tiny tweak, which might normally just, change eye color or hair texture, could, according to the source, grant eternal life.
That immortality claim is startling, yeah. But the source tries to ground it, connecting it directly to ancient stories. It insists they aren't myths, but like literal historical accounts.
Okay.
It reframes the story of Prometheus stealing fire from heaven, the act that gave man equality with the gods.
Yeah, I know the one.
Where it sees that not as an allegory, but as a statement of truth. This stolen fire, the source claims, is the secret to eternal life. And it's somehow hidden within ancient stone monuments. Knowing this secret, held in the stones, is presented as the path towards getting the lifespan of, angels.
Hidden in stone.
Yeah.
Okay. And this hidden knowledge is tied to a timeline that is wildly different from what most of us were. Right?
Completely different. The source argues that our current version of this Earth might only be 5,000 years old.
Only 5,000.
Yeah, but Sumerian civilization actually stretches back over 200,000 years.
200,000.
That's the claim. And it's during this ancient epoch, over 200 millennia ago, that the source says, star people, aliens, Anunnaki, sons of God, or giants, descended from the heavens. They supposedly came down, walked among us, lived with us, and taught early humanity. Well, everything.
Wow, that dramatically expands the time frame and brings in, non-human players into our history.
Definitely. And the source claims these alien beings didn't just coexist with humans. They literally gave man kingship of immortality. It even cites kings from Sumerian lists, not ruling for decades, but for mind-boggling millennia.
Millennia? Like how long?
Like Aluum for 28,000 years.
28,000 years.
And Alulgar for 36,000 years. It insists 8 such kings collectively ruled for over 240,000 years right here on Earth.
240,000 years? Wow, just try to wrap your head around that. From a human perspective, that's an eternity.
It really is.
Living that long, as the source points out, means witnessing cycles of life and death countless times, watching everyone you love, even the Earth itself, live and die and renew over and over.
It's a heavy concept.
Yeah, and the source contrasts this with the 969 years for Methuselah in the Bible, which people often doubt anyway. It insists these alien kings lived vastly longer and didn't offer faith, but true truth.
What kind of truth?
Apparently showing humanity a literal map of the cosmos, pinpointing the actual location, the house, throne, and address of God, and the source claims anyone given this knowledge became a giant with the authority to rule.
Okay, so a radical redefinition of history, kingship, even divinity. Following this, the source really focuses heavily on Egypt. It describes it as a land of giants and kings holding some kind of colossal secret one that's been deliberately hidden.
Right, hidden.
And the claim here, connecting back to the bigger picture, is that our understanding of ancient structures, especially the pyramids, has been fundamentally manipulated.
Manipulated how? It completely flips the script on the Giza pyramids, doesn't it?
It does. The source directly attacks the widely accepted idea that the Giza pyramids align with or represent the constellation Orion.
Yeah, the Orion Belt theory.
Exactly. He calls that theory a calculated ruse, a misdirection, a red herring specifically designed to lead humanity away from the actual secret embedded within the Great Pyramid. The source labels it a cover-up of, quote, biblical proportions.
So, not built by Khufu around 2500 BC then?
According to the source, absolutely not. It claims the pyramid was already standing for over 10,000 years, millennia before Khufu's time.
10,000 years, so Khufu didn't build it.
The source says Khufu's real significance was rediscovering its holy and glorious purpose around 2500 BC. He supposedly realized it contained supreme and holy knowledge, specifically the knowledge of eternal life.
Eternal life again.
Yeah. Reportedly, Khufu was so overwhelmed by this discovery that he then ordered his sons to spread the Orion story as a deliberate misdirection, bearing the true, most sacred knowledge.
Okay, so if it's not about Orion, what is the real secret hidden in the Great Pyramid, according to this source?
It's a literal map, a map to the cosmos.
A map made of stone.
The source claims the pyramid's 2.5 million stones aren't just building blocks, they're a coded key. They supposedly guide us 2.5 million light years away into space.
2.5 million light years. Where to?
The journey goes past the Andromeda Galaxy, then to the Triangulum Galaxy, and ultimately to something called the Tree of Life. The source identifies Triangulum as the precise location of the House of God and the holder of the secret to immortality. A code, it claims, hasn't been cracked until now.
Triangulum. Okay. And this map theme continues with obelisks, right?
Exactly. This cosmic map idea extends to obelisks. The source states these tall stone pillars are found across the globe, also gifts from the ancient giants. They aren't just monuments or sundials. They are celestial markers, pointing skyward with a singular message, daring us to look up, lift our gaze, and comprehend the heavens.
And the crucial part is the top, isn't it? That little pyramid shape.
Precisely. According to the source, that tiny pyramid is a hieroglyphic symbol for the House of God, Triangulum. It's intentionally placed high up to signify where we go after death. The source insists this thin pyramid symbol for Triangulum is on every obelisk worldwide.
Every single one.
Wow, and right next to it, says the source, is the Ankh symbol.
The Ankh, yeah, symbol of life, usually.
Well, forget what conventional historians say. The source claims the Ankh actually represents the Tree of Life constellation,
Okay.
which is located right next to Triangulum in the cosmos, mirroring the arrangement on the obelisk itself. This powerful, holy knowledge, it claims, was reserved for royalty and the chosen, those selected few who would eventually make this cosmic journey, leaving Earth to save it.
Fascinating. It's like a hidden language on these monuments.
The source definitely presents it that way, and it continues this radical reinterpretation by looking at ancient symbols found across different continents. It argues they provide irrefutable evidence that defies our current scientific understanding of, prehistoric global interaction.
Like which symbols?
Consider the Sumerian symbol of God, often depicted as a circle with wings.
The winged disc, yeah.
The source points out this exact symbol appears in Sumer, Persia, Egypt, Babylon, Nazca in Peru, Bolivia, and among the Mayans in the Americas. It argues these appeared simultaneously, at a time when mainstream science says these continents had absolutely no contact.
That is a puzzle, if true.
The source presents it as definitive proof that everything we've been taught about early human history and our beginnings is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so that's a huge claim based on these symbols appearing everywhere. And what about the wings themselves? What's the source's take?
Well, this is really interesting. It argues that ancient pictograms we often see as angels weren't necessarily depicting celestial beings in a religious sense.
No. Then what?
In the ancient world, the source insists, wings simply meant flight, air travel, a flying disc, or what we might call a flying saucer today.
So flying machines.
Essentially, yes. The winged sun disk, seen in Egyptian art, according to this source, is part of this belief system. It represents a visible, glowing disk with wings that they saw in their skies.
Okay, that's one interpretation. What about the winged serpent? That's another common one.
Right, the source delves into that too. It's a globally recognized symbol, usually tied to wisdom, power, divinity. It shows a hieroglyph transitioning from just a serpent to one with wings, claiming this represents humanity itself. This children of men is us.
Us? How so?
It proposes that these flying serpents actively sustained ancient nations, not just spiritually, but delivering physical things, food, supplies, medicine,
Sustenance from the sky.
and even the power of immortality, suggesting it was derived from genetic manipulation by these gods, allowing humans to live, say, 40,000 years instead of 40.
40,000 years, okay. So who are these beings capable of flight and providing all this?
The source makes a really bold assertion here. It says modern man and ancient man existed at the same time, coexisting on Earth for millennia.
Modern and ancient together.
Yes. And crucially, it claims modern man with the power of the serpent was God.
Meaning?
Meaning, according to the source, that these enlightened advanced humans had wings on their back and possessed the actual ability to fly. This power of flight was symbolized, it argues, by depictions like the head of a bird representing a man or woman who could fly.
Wow, okay, so humans who could fly, essentially gods, Does it offer any proof?
Well, it uses the famous Tutankhamun mask as a striking confirmation.
King Tut's mask. How?
It points to the two figures on the boy king's forehead, one identified as a serpent, the other a bird.
The vulture and cobra, yeah.
The source interprets this symbology very differently. It means, it claims, that the young king himself possessed the ability to fly, that his reign was actively protected and sustained by this power of flight, while the serpent represented his dominion over the land.
So Tut could fly. And the Egyptians were the last ones who could.
That's the narrative. The Egyptians were the last nation left who still held the secret and the ability to fly. A secret the source claims bypasses even our smartest modern scientists and archaeologists.
Okay, this is getting deeper and deeper. To really get the next part, the source says we need to, what? Change our thinking?
Pretty much. It strongly urges us to shake off our old ideas and abandon nearly everything we think we know about history and reality.
That's a big ask.
It is, and it delivers a stark warning. If we fail to unlearn conventional knowledge, if we don't fundamentally change our thinking, we're destined to suffer the same fate as a last world destroyed and wiped away.
Whoa.
Yeah, this radical shift involves reinterpreting even familiar cultural stories, like the Greek myth of Medusa.
Medusa. With the snake hair, how does she fit in?
Well, here's another unexpected connection the source makes. It claims the Greek myth of Medusa isn't originally Greek at all. It's supposedly based on a true, older Egyptian story and is directly derived from the Egyptian goddess Isis.
Medusa comes from Isis. That's new to me. How does it connect them?
It's all in the depiction, according to the source. It highlights Isis's headdress, which often includes serpents woven into her hair.
Okay, I can picture that.
The source interprets this symbolically. It means dominion over lands, not just one or two, but potentially all of them. It points to her crown sometimes having 7 serpents topped by an eagle with wings.
7 serpents and an eagle.
This, the source claims, signifies that Isis had dominion over all 7 continents of land on the face of this earth, and the bird shows how she ruled them by flight.
Flying serpent goddess ruling all continents. Okay, shifting back from myths to something solid, the stones, the megaliths.
Yes, exactly. Shifting from mythology back to the tangible, the source returns to those massive stone structures, the megaliths scattered across the globe. It calls them not just enduring enigmas or megalithic monstrosities, but actual containers of the knowledge of the world that was before our own.
Knowledge containers.
Left behind, the source insists, as clandestine messages and desperate warnings by survivors of a previous advanced world. A world exactly like ours, apparently, that destroyed itself. These survivors prayed someone in the future would finally understand the messages in the stones.
That gives these ancient stones a really profound, almost tragic purpose. But what makes them so significant today, according to the source?
Well, it mentions their known properties, their electromagnetic qualities, their precise alignments, many pointing true north.
Right, like compasses.
Yeah, functioning as compasses, which the source says was crucial for maintaining flight tech, even after some world-ending event knocked out electronics. But their most critical purpose now, the source claims, is incredibly simple: for us to touch it.
Just touch the stones. Why?
This is where the source presents probably its most stunning, most central claim about these structures. It argues these stones are sophisticated data collection devices.
Collection, like computers.
Sort of, but biological. It says they are specifically charged with electromagnetic properties for this very function. When we touch them, they actively collect our biological data: sweat, hair, saliva, skin cells, even the air we breathe around them, including microbial DNA.
They're collecting our DNA just from touch.
That's the claim. And it gets wilder. The source claims these stones also function as UFO beacons.
Beacons for UFOs.
Signaling to aliens who then regularly return to these sites, almost like clockwork, to collect this accumulated data, potentially assessing the health of our world and its inhabitants based on the DNA samples.
Wow. Data collectors and alien beacons. That gives them layers of hidden purpose I've never heard before.
It's definitely unique. And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the source calls these Prometheus stones, or Messiah stones.
Prometheus stones.
Why? It claims they represent humanity's last hope if we fail to reach the Stargate.
A backup plan.
Exactly. Because they supposedly hold the concentrated DNA and atmospheric data of millions of humans over millennia, the essential genetic information needed to restart life if everything else fails.
So they contain the blueprint for humanity?
Essentially, yeah. The source even makes the incredible claim that you could theoretically take one of these stones, launch it into deep space, And it could travel for 10,000 years, potentially carrying the blueprint for our lives to seed a new environment if it finds a habitable one.
Seeding life on other planets with ancient stones.
It insists our DNA, our unique fingerprint, is clearly visible within these stones, which it says contain embedded symbols of DNA.
And the source author claims personal experience with this.
Ah, yes. The source concludes this section with a very personal, very dramatic testimony. The author claims to have touched one of these stones, one that was somehow a DNA match for them.
A DNA match to a stone.
That's what's claimed. Upon touching it, they allege an electrical charge hit them, they lost consciousness, and while out, experienced visions of the cosmos, angels, aliens, the living, the dead, all of it. They claim they understood things they couldn't before, saw forever, and woke with absolute certainty that everything they're relaying about these secrets is true because it happened to them directly.
That's quite a claim, a personal revelation driving this whole narrative. So, according to this source, where does all this lead? The ancient kings, the cosmic maps, the flying ancients, the DNA collecting stones. What's the final destination?
It all converges on one point: the Stargate.
The Stargate?
The source adamantly insists the Stargate, located in the Triangulum galaxy and findable using the Great Pyramid's encoded map, is real. And it's actively waiting for humanity.
Waiting, but there's a catch, isn't there? A condition.
A huge one. What's particularly striking is the absolute non-negotiable condition the source places on accessing the Stargate. It states unequivocally that humanity must shed our skins of all the things that divide us.
Shed our skins? Meaning what, exactly?
It specifically calls out religious identities: Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindu, as the primary barriers. To embark on this cosmic journey, the source is crystal clear. We can only be one thing. We must be humans.
Just humans, no other labels.
Exactly. It warns that if we attempt this journey while clinging to our old beliefs and divisions, we simply aren't ready. We won't succeed.
Okay, so unity is the key. What's the journey itself like, according to the source?
It's described as a passage through a gateway, essentially a wormhole. We'd suddenly arrive somewhere vast in the cosmos and be greeted by beings we perceive as aliens.
Aliens greet us.
But then comes a profound twist. The source reveals we eventually discover these beings are us. They are humanity, but from 45,000 years in our future.
45,000 years in the future, they're our descendants.
Or maybe just a future version of humanity. This massive leap in time means they possess advanced knowledge. They'll use it to enlighten us, prepare us for our eventual return journey. The source says we'll visit with them for about a month, Earth time. We're heading back.
A month with future humans? Then we come back. What happens then?
This is where time dilation seems to come in. Yeah. The source claims over 2,000 Earth years will have passed while we were gone.
2,000 years?
Yes. The world we left behind will be utterly transformed. Familiar landscapes gone, replaced by lush, renewed environments, and populated by entirely new, foreign peoples thriving on land that was once ours.
So we return to a totally different Earth. What about us, the returnees?
We'll have vastly increased lifespans filled with knowledge from our future selves, but because of, strange clothes, maybe lights from our faces, we'll appear alien to these new inhabitants. They'll call us star people.
Star people.
The source concludes this part by stating we, the returnees, will then live among them, teach them, love them, and ultimately rule them.
Rule them, like the ancient kings before. It sounds cyclical, but the source also stresses keeping this Stargate knowledge secret, right? Until a certain point.
Immense importance is placed on that, protecting the knowledge of the Stargate's existence and location. It must never be revealed to mankind, it says, until humanity matures into a specific technological age.
Why the secrecy?
Because, according to the source, achieving that level of technological maturity inevitably leads our world to another day of dying, a catastrophe.
So technology leads to destruction and the cycle repeats.
It seems to imply that. The source suggests the new peoples who inherit the Earth after the returnees arrive will also face hardship, the test of life. And only if they prove worthy will they eventually rediscover the Stargate for themselves.
Wow. Okay. That brings us near the end. How does the source wrap this all up?
It wraps up this section with a really powerful sense of cyclical history and urgency. It states that great knowledge precedes the end of every world. And it ends this part by passionately urging the listener, you, to share this information widely, friends, family, news channels, bloggers.
Sure, because...
Because in the source's own words, you have no idea what's coming.
Chilling. We've certainly taken a deep dive into some extraordinary and frankly mind-bending claims today, all drawn directly from this one audio source. We've covered ancient aliens jump-starting civilization, immortality via DNA, stones hiding secrets,
Yeah, pyramids and obelisks as cosmic maps and DNA collectors,
our history and myths as deliberate cover-ups pointing towards a real Stargate.
a Stargate accessible only if we unify and become just humans.
It's a comprehensive and challenging reframing of everything, really. Human history, our potential.
It really is. The source insists that these huge secrets, eternal life, interstellar travel, our origins aren't lost. They're waiting. Encoded in ancient monuments, maybe even in our own genes. It's a call to look beyond the standard narratives, isn't it?
Definitely. It's a lot to process. It challenges deeply held beliefs about history, science, reality itself. So, based purely on this source, what does this all mean for you, the listener? It lays out a reality where humanity's greatest secrets are physically present, waiting in ancient stones, tied to a cosmic destination. And the path there requires shedding division, embracing our shared identity as humans.
And maybe the most provocative thought from this source, the most personal one, is that claim about the stones. That they are actively waiting for a match, waiting for someone whose DNA resonates with the knowledge they hold. What if one of these ancient structures standing for thousands of years somewhere out there holds a specific message, a key, or even a destiny meant uniquely for you, just waiting for you to simply touch it?